This week on London Real, we have the actor, model, and anti-bullying advocate, RJ Mitte.
For me, our job is to affect an emotional response into someone. Our job is to breathe life into something that necessarily has no life. Can't is an idea. It's an infection. It's can't. There's so many poisonous words in our world. That's what they teach you in acting. It's living in the moment.
Do you like that term, disabled? Because the way you described it recently, just about 20 minutes ago, is it's enabled. It's like that whole thing enables you.
The White family was a real family. That was an honest family. Like people aren't perfect. A lot of people are like, oh, you had Breaking Bad, you have it made, it's done, it's like, no, that just means I have to do something better.
On Sunday, London Real presents RJ Mitte, Breaking Bad.
That big job may never come unless you build it.
This week on the show, we have the actor, model, and anti-bullying advocate, RJ Mitte. Yes, you would have known him as Walt Jr. on the television show Breaking Bad. In my opinion, one of the greatest television shows of all time. And the thing about RJ is that he grew up on that show. You know, we met him so many years ago as a young teenager, and we watched him grow up next to some of the greatest actors of our generation while they were cooking up copious amounts of methamphetamine. It's a show that I love. I think cinematography, it's just some of the best there is in the business. But RJ's a fascinating guy because, quite honestly, he keeps moving, and he's not one to rest on his laurels. He does runway modeling in Milan. He is really outspoken about cerebral palsy, about anti-bullying, and has a fascinating way that he looks about his disability, or as I like to say during the episode, his inability, as in that he looks at his cerebral palsy as a way to just see something that he conquers every day, and it empowers him. And so I love my time talking with RJ. We're super excited to have him on the show. We came in on a Saturday night here at London Real Studios and just made it happen because it was super important, and he has got such a great London Real type message as far as how to learn, how to push yourself, and quite honestly, how to keep working. You know, he's not the kind of actor that sits around waiting for the phone to ring. He's like, you gotta be out there doing things. You have to go out for work. You have to be constantly doing different things, like working in the fashion industry. And this boy is always grinding, and I love sitting down and talking with him. So you might have first met him as Walt Jr., but now you're gonna know him as an accomplished actor and just a really interesting human, a great guy that has a fantastic way he looks at life. So again, super honored. Thank you, RJ, for coming on, and I think everyone's gonna get a ton out of this episode. You know, a lot of people have been asking me, Bryan, what is this academy all about? And it's a great question because it's kind of a secret we've been keeping, but now it's getting out because we have nearly 1,000 full members of the London Real Academy all over the world, and they are the most hardcore London Reelers that tune in every day to build better versions of themselves and make themselves accountable. And so we have a separate section on LondonRealAcademy.com where they get to watch live episodes, they get to watch webinars, they get to watch bonus content like the success secrets and all sorts of other pieces, including a social network. And on top of that, we have meetups all around the world, including at London Real Studios. Every 2 weeks, you can book it. You can come meet me. You can sit in the chairs and smell the leather, and we can talk about what goals you want to accomplish and how we can help you get them done. And so just to give you a better idea of what we're doing, I made a quick video, and you can check it out right now.
The entrepreneurial journey, it can be a lonely road. I push myself in so many areas, but you know, you can't do it all yourself.
The thing about the academy is, it's like, look, you have the ideas, you have the ability, you have the skill, and you have the sort of ambition for yourself. But when you have a group of people pulling you forward, it's so important.
Accountability is what's missing from most of the programs or any gurus or any internet mentor that I had before.
I wanted to get some accountability. I wanted to make myself accountable to a group, to you.
The reason we started the Academy is because I felt like we were doing these amazing talks, like we'd have a Peter Sage episode or a Dan Pena episode or a Kala or someone, and you get super inspired, and then YouTube stops, and then you go back to your life and you don't make any changes. And it was just like, it felt like, what are we doing? If you're designing your life right, the good times are now. And in a few years, you'll look back and say, wow, that was amazing.
The thing about the Academy is it has so many different sort of layers to it. I think your web seminars are awesome. The way you broke it down and the style of your teaching is pretty awesome.
I like the feed. When I have to motivate myself, I kind of look at others struggling and getting over those struggles. So I actually follow daily the feed.
Best feature would be the sort of Facebook aspect of it, the social media aspect of it, as in creating a profile with your goals, your dreams.
Everyone's on the same vibe, and we may be at different stages in our journeys, but everyone's on the same page at the end of the day. Everyone's really trying to push themselves and building the best you. It really resonates with me.
And the fact that I'm committing a small amount of money and the fact that I'm actually trying to interact with those people means that I'm invested and means that I will keep it for the long run.
You have to be serious about yourself and what you want to achieve. And if you're serious about yourself, this is going to be such a fantastic platform.
London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is the actor and model RJ Mitte, who is best known for his role in the television show Breaking Bad as Walter White's disabled son, Walt Jr., one of the few characters to remain alive during the entire 5 seasons of what I consider to be one of the greatest television shows of all time. Maybe second to The Wire, that's debatable. This year, you starred in the film Dixieland, which premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in your first non-handicapped leading role. When you're not acting, you are modeling for Gap and walking the runways of Milan, Berlin, and New York. You are also the face of the Cut the Bull anti-bullying campaign in support of children. RJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's definitely a pleasure.
You mentioned earlier that the Americans look at the Brits and the Brits look at the Americans. I guess over here we admire the scale and the kind of the things Americans are allowed to do or are able to do. And over there, it seems like people look to like French cinema for inspiration. I know you spend time in like Milan and Berlin, and I think the Americans in some way always feel like the French and the British kind of invented, certain things.
I think they're the like French, British, German, these types of cultures that have been around for a lot longer than the United States. We're a fairly new country. Like if you think of the grand scheme of the world of what we are. And I feel like the United States, we have a tendency of going, oh, yeah, that's too far. We should not push that envelope. We should not push people into that direction. When it's French cinema, they don't care. They'll put whatever they want, sex, drugs, anything. They will put that on screen and they will go all out. Same thing with London, same thing with Germany. They're more willing to push the envelope. They're more willing to put something out there, not being not necessarily politically correct,
Yeah.
but they're still willing to put it out there, and that's what makes or breaks a show, is that politically correctness or incorrectness.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is that. That's not what this world was comprised of. We're comprised of mistakes. We're comprised of our follies and a lot of different things that make us unique as humans. But people want to all be so proper and posh, and it doesn't work if you, especially in this industry, you can't put this business in a formula. You can try, but the thing is, as soon as you start trying, the formula changes and you have to find something else. And when you're pushing the envelope, you're finding that new thing. And it's not always going to work. People aren't always going to like it, but what people will find, the little things that they like, you use those little things and you create a bigger picture with that.
In all the interviews I hear from you, you're always talking about, I got to keep working. It's about the future. It's about the next role. It's about what I need to do.
It is. It's like you can't base your, like, you can, one role, yes, can project your career. And that's what I did. Breaking Bad gave me a career. But that's not what's going to make me me. Yes, it will define what I can, it will define a lot of what I will be doing. But the thing is that's not what I want to be solely known for. And that's not what I just want to live on. Yeah, I was on Breaking Bad, remember that. I want to be like, no, I wasn't just on Breaking Bad. I do this and this and this. And I think as an actor, we shouldn't just stick to one part of this industry, because this industry is not just one part. This industry is comprised of many pieces. I feel like we're all, you included, we're all under the same umbrella of entertaining and an art form and growing and learning. And that's acting, that's modeling, that's producing, that's directing, that's anywhere from painting to like doing anything that we necessarily define as an art. And I feel like even journalism and talking and the way that we conduct our business in this, it's really under that same umbrella.
I've heard once that great art, half the people hate it, half the people love it. The last thing you want to do is make something that everyone has no reaction to.
See, that's the thing, is if they have no reaction, that's a bad sign. For me and for what we do, I look at our job is to invoke an emotional response into someone, good or bad, happy or sad, whatever it is. Our job is to make them feel that way in that moment. And this was the thing with Breaking Bad, is in the beginning a lot of people hated the show, but those same people came around a couple years later, around 4 or 5 years later, to love the show. And a lot of that gets into the mindset of where people are in their life and in their world, of how they are, from friends and family to the financial responsibilities to stress. And that affects their TV viewing of what they want to watch, if it's happy or if it's sad or if it's suspenseful. And I think that all changes, and that goes with the times of what we have. So,
why do you think it took so many people like a few seasons to get their head around Breaking Bad?
Well, we came out in essentially a very dark time for the world. We came out where everyone was losing their jobs, the bubble popped. Like we were one of the very few shows that survived the writer's strike. And the show was very dark in a sense, and was actually, they toned down the show for the network, because people were complaining that it was too hard, that it was something that they didn't want to see. Because at the time, people were in the same position as Bryan's character, Heisenberg, or Walter White. They were in that
broke, bad times.
They were losing their money. They were losing their homes. It was bad times. It was, what am I going to do to provide for my family? Where am I going to find the job that I just lost to keep my family in that way of living? And where it was happening with Walter White is he's dying. He has no money. He's about to spend whatever little money that he saved up on a funeral. And a lot of people were dealing with, not to that extent, but they're dealing with it in that extent. They were wondering, where am I going to go? How am I going to make money? And about 4 years later, that slowly we increased our viewership, because that was changing, and people were realizing they do have a way out, and they do have a way to see the future, and that this isn't just going to be the end where they have to move back to mom and dad, but they can live independently. They just have to work. And Bryan's character Walt did work, just in a different path. And I think over time people evolved and were more willing to be lenient towards the show and the content of the show, because the content itself was really hard, you know. What's funny is I know a lot of people that were addicts and that have dealt with addiction and were like, and still today are like, I cannot watch the show because of the content. Yeah. And that's when you know you are able to do your job right and you affect people emotionally.
Right, because you very correctly portrayed, you know, methamphetamine addiction in a few episodes, and I'm sure that really hits home, because a lot of time there's the Hollywood version of what a drug user looks like, which is sometimes comical and very stereotypical. But in Breaking Bad, you went pretty deep.
They tried to create it the best way. It's even worse than what it looks like, but we tried to portray the honesty of the effects of what these drugs do to people, and not just what the drugs do, but when you're in that world, what it does to themselves, and being anything corrosive like that, it corrodes who they are, and not just corrodes their body, but corrodes their soul. And over time, you are affected, and I think that we tried to capture. We did get a lot of hate mail because of it, but like, and it was like a lot of like threats and a number of different things. But the thing about is those people were never the person that was actually facing the addiction. It was someone that was affected by that person. And what I think we probably could have labeled more on, and I don't think a lot of people realized it, but how it affects the family and how one action that you do affects the lives of many. And no one really understands the power that they have anymore. And I think that needs to change, because we have so much power. And it's not just people in my position, in your position. Everyone around the world has power. They just choose not to tap into it. They choose not to see it for themselves. But they sit idle, and they eventually watch people that think they have power. But the thing is you may think you have power, and you may have a little bit of power, but everyone has this power. But you choose a level that you plateau at.
So you pretty much grew up on the show, which is a fascinating thing to happen, and potentially dangerous thing, although you seem to be flying out of it, you know, no problem. But I was wondering if you could take me back to that day when you're shooting the pilot, and you're looking around, and you've got, you know, Bryan Cranston and, you know, Anna Gunn and Dean Norris and Betsy Brandt, and the script, you know, some say was written for you, or, you know, was very much, you know, something that was right on to you. Do you remember thinking, this is special? I know you didn't have a frame of reference.
Oh, I knew. We all knew that this was a special project. Like, there was no doubt in our mind. We just never knew that it would be as popular as it was. The only reason why I'm an actor today is because of the show. The only reason why I'm still in this industry is because of the show, and the only reason why I really have a career is because of the show. I could have never imagined the show being what it is now, and I do remember the pilot. It was my favorite episode to shoot. It was my favorite episode in general to be a part of. It was just one of the reasons why I'm still in this business, and I fell in love with what I do because of that pilot. It really was an opportunity of a lifetime, and being a part of this cast, and I remember sitting in an ensemble where it's all 5 of us in this one scene, and we're all getting coverage, and we're shooting all day, and it just, that's what I love, is that camaraderie and that drive. And when you're able to see people that are still passionate about what they do after 30 and 40 years of working in this industry since a child, and that's something special, because, you know, a lot of people don't have their passion anymore, and they just look at it as a business, and they're like, all right, turn around, where's the next project? Give me the next script. All right, yep, well, let's do that. But no, give me the right script. Let's look at this script. What can we do to this script? How can we make these scenes better? What can we do in these scenes to make these scenes better? And that's what you really need, is that passion. And people that lost it lost so much more than just their passion. But we had that, and we loved what we were doing. We knew we had something special, and the pilot was definitely a testament to that, and that's what really set the tone for the whole show.
I remember watching like season 4 where everyone's character art started really stretching their legs, and you know, you and you know Walter and Walter's wife and everyone really. And I kept thinking to myself, how did they know these actors were going to be able to deliver, you know, 4 years later in these huge ways? So they just take a gamble because everyone seemed to deliver.
Well, I think they knew Bryan, they knew Anna, they knew Ben. I think I was the only one that they were really gambling on because I only was working about 6 months to a year when I booked Breaking Bad. I just started acting. I was 12 turning 13 when I started acting, and I was 13 turning 14 when I started Breaking Bad. And I think I was the only person they were really gambling on as an actor to deliver a arc. Bryan had been in the industry for quite a while, Anna as well. Like, everyone except for me had this long history of theater and television and film and being in the arts, and I did not.
How do you not be intimidated when you're at the dinner table acting with these people?
The thing about it was I didn't think about that. I think when you're so busy, if you're busy being intimidated, you're not living in the moment. If you're busy living in a realm of fear and, oh my God, this is Bryan Cranston and a gun them. If you're like that, you're not doing your job. You're not thinking about where you're at. You're not playing that character. You're caught up in actuality. You're caught up in real life. And for me, I live in that scene. I try when I act and I perform. I don't try to bring my outside world into that. My world is that world, and I live in that world. That is my character. My character is me, and as soon as I'm off set, I go back to actuality. I go back to my real life. But when I'm in that moment, that's not. I try not to drag that in there, and I try to keep those two things separate.
Is that the essence of acting, being in the moment and being in that character?
I mean, that's what they teach you in acting. It's living in the moment.
Yeah.
That's what they taught me in acting. And I feel like in life, if you're not present, there's a gloss and you don't see what's around you, and we have a tendency not to. And I'm always very observant. I try to always observe and to be in the moment and to live what I'm doing, even off the set. And I think that a lot of people don't do that. And especially as an actor, we need to be in that moment, to connect with that moment. For me, our job is to affect an emotional response into someone. Our job is to breathe life into something that necessarily has no life, to give it a soul, to give it a character. And not your soul, but a new soul, a different person. And I think that's what I love about it. I think this is the most amazing thing, when you can go into a job and you can be someone completely different. I love every minute of that. And I try to take that to everything I do. And there's different levels of how I behave with an interview, how I behave on set, how I behave with a photo shoot, how I behave on a runway, what do I behave like on a street or in like a bar. And I pretty much have a different character in, like, I don't do it on purpose, but naturally I tap into a different way of thinking and a different way of talking. Like from like how I'm talking now versus how I was talking when I first walked in here. Mm-hmm. Like it's a different process that once I'm in that moment, it just clicks for me and I do it naturally.
You said being on set was like being in an acting masterclass. Was there any points along the couple of years where you just had like a real realization where, you know, Vince or the director at the time or Bryan or someone would pull you aside or you'd see something they do and you were just like, oh.
I think there was a lot of that, but I was more of a process of looking and being like, okay, that's what you do. This is how you behave. This is what you bring to the set. This is what I need to get to that level. And I'm not someone that'll go and I'll ask. And if they want me to change, tell me what. I'm a person, when I'm on set, what do you want? What do you want the character to be like? What do you want out of this character? What are you needing? And that's up to the director and the creators. But for me, I think the main thing is looking at my surrounding environment. Like when I was doing extra work when I first started, I learned a lot from extra work. I didn't play around on set. I looked at the crew. I looked at the cast. I looked at how they behaved, how they interacted. And I studied that, and I learned from that, and I learned from behavior. I love to people watch. It's the most amazing thing.
That's what great actors do, right?
It's reality television, but real. Like it's so interesting to see, and that's why I think the biggest thing is you have a lot of people that don't live in the moment, and they don't try to incorporate things that they really need to bring into to make a character, and not your traits, but someone else's traits. And if you're vigilant and you watch and you see how people behave and how they sit and how they stand and how they talk and how they look, like the difference of that, and you take parts of that, you put them together, you create a whole different person. And you have these in yourself of how you behave and what you do, and you find those, and you find what the character's breakdown is, and you use what you think that characters behave, and you give them quirks, and you give them tics, and you give them different ways of sitting and shuffling, and I think that's, for me, that's the best way to create, and is by what you see and what you do and how you behave.
Let's talk about disability.
Yes.
Walt Jr. has cerebral palsy, and it's funny because I read that in the Wikipedia, and I had to think twice, because you introduced him the first season, and he has the crutches and everything, but after you get to know him, you do forget about it.
Yeah.
And he's just another fascinating character on the show. And I remember seeing one of the last scenes where you're in high school and you take a phone call from Walt, I think, and then you get the crutches afterwards, and I was like, oh, I forgot he had crutches. Talk to me about that issue, and then the fact that you were born with cerebral palsy. You were born not breathing via cesarean section, and
something like that.
And so you had knowledge of that to the role. There's so much to talk about. Where do you start when people ask?
When it comes down to the role of Walt Jr., and this is the thing, is not many people realize that. As you did watch the show, and as you did see Walt Jr., you saw the crutches first, and then you saw the character. But as you are evolving with this character and you're growing, you no longer think about that, and you see the character for what he is. But that's the thing, is that's the mindset that we're in now, is that we see the crutch, or we see the chair, or we see whatever it is first before we see the person. And that's what we need to change, and that's what Breaking Bad changed, is that it gave us a different way of looking at someone that is a real person, that's necessarily has this and living with this, but it's not who he is. It's not what he is. It's not like, it's like I wake up every morning, oh, I have CP today. Let me like make that about that. It's like anyone else. You wake up, you just go, and you never really think about it. I never really even thought about my disability until someone told me I was disabled. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm fine, man. They're like, no, you have like braces on your legs. Why do you have that? And then they're like, oh, because of this, and I explained it. But they're like, okay, but why? And I'd be like, well, it's a number of reasons. I have it. Why not? Like, I need it. Like, and that's something that we need to change. And that's the importance of the power of perception of what they see on television and film, because we can change that mindset. And I always like to think, what if we can affect the mindset of children, of how they perceive disability on the screen? And if that does affect change with that, that will affect not just their generation, but generations to come, of how they perceive disability and how they acknowledge disability. I have a lot of friends in chairs. I have a lot of friends with crutches. And the thing is I don't see the crutch. I see it, but this is the thing. It's an extension of what they are and who they are and what they can do. It's like anything. It's like having a nice pair of shoes. It's like, oh, that's a cool chair, nice. Well, but anyways, blah, blah, blah. It's like you go on to the next thing. And that's what's slowly changing. When it comes to my own disability, I grew up with this. This is all I knew. I never thought it was different. I never thought it was odd. And like I said earlier, until I went to school and someone told me I was different. And I learned with it. I grew up with it. And I was surrounded by people with a number of different disabilities. My mom was in elder care and home care. My grandfather had a stroke and was fully paralyzed on one side. My Aunt Kitty had polio and dealt with anywhere from diabetes to cancer. A lot of my family got taken out from cancer. So I've dealt with everything from long-lasting disabilities to disabilities that will kill you almost instantly. And I don't look at a physical challenge as a disability. I look at anything that's hindering your life or hindering what you want to do as a disability. This can be physical, this can be mental, this can be family, this can be friends, this can be your environment, your work. That in itself can be disabilities. I don't look at individuals with a disability. I look at everyone. We have these challenges. And the more of a challenge it is, it's a personal challenge. It's a challenge directed at you that you have to overcome. And people like to put it to the side, but when it's their own, they put it to the side, and hopefully it goes away. But when you embrace it and you utilize it and you turn it into a knowledge factor, a power factor, for me, a disability in itself is that challenge. It's a challenge for you to grow. It's a challenge for you to learn something about yourself that you don't or will not learn without that challenge. And it ranges from person to person. But I look at it as a strength, as knowledge, as something that you will utilize in the long run. For me, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to do what I do right now if it wasn't for my CP. I wouldn't have ever booked Breaking Bad. I would have never worked with the organizations that I get to work with. I would never have the same opportunities. First of all, if I moved to Los Angeles, I would have been another face in the crowd. I would have been another actor that went out there to meet kids his own age. I did it to meet kids my own age, but most people go to do whatever they want, to be an actor, to be famous, to be whatever. But I would have just fell into that category of, oh, this is an able-bodied, dark hair, big eyebrows. At the time, I was 5'7", 5'8". I would have fit in a sheet, and they would have just passed me around. And yes, I still fit in that sheet. And yes, I didn't put CP on, but I would have never gotten the opportunity for Breaking Bad that gave me so many more opportunities to use as a platform. And I think that people need to, the quicker they look at what they have, and not just physical and mental, but in general, the challenges that they have, as a challenge they need to accept versus a challenge they need to avoid. Right. They will be so much further ahead.
Right. So accept it as an asset, and then when you overcome it, the world sees the power you have and use it as, we call it, as a term called IP, intellectual property, where everyone has their own, IP. That's kind of yours, because like you said, otherwise you're in the crowd. Now you're this special guy.
It makes you unique. It gives you another aspect, and it gives you a different way of looking at an individual, of how you process and how you see that person. And we don't really pay attention to our body. We don't really pay attention to our mindset. We just go and go and go, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I feel like this, I gotta deal with this, and then just give me something to make it go away. But why not, instead of just trying to take something to fix it, why don't you go and look inside and fix it yourself? Break it down for yourself. We have a tendency to let our fears manipulate us. We have a tendency to fall into a category where we just go, I can't change this. This is me. This is what I have to deal with, and I'm going to mope about that and just keep ignoring it and focus on another direction. But what if, instead of ignoring it, you utilized it, you worked on it, you turned it for your benefit? And some people can do that, and some people can't. And that's fine, but we all have to learn what we need to do and what we need to grow with to not just better our environment, but better ourselves. But we don't always do that, and we tend to take an easier road. For me, I don't like to take the easy road. I like a little bit of a struggle. I like a challenge. For me, it's not worth it if it comes to you easy. Nothing in life comes easy, and if you think it should, you are very mistaken. Because what's it worth then if it comes easy? What's the value of that? There is none. It came easy. And I feel like you have a tendency to just use and use and use, and then it's all used up. But if you worked for it and you appreciate it and you work towards what you truly wanted, you see the value in it, you see the appreciation in it, and you can utilize it. And you can utilize it at a higher value versus, oh yeah, this is what I got, and let's just send it out and hope for the best. Versus, this is what I have, this is what we're using, and this is what we're going to drive home with. It's like the difference between someone going into a meeting and expressing their passion for what they're doing versus the guy going into the meeting going, yeah, this is what I do. You going to hire me or not? Like, yeah, you may get by in this world a little bit with that, but will you prosper? No.
Did you ever ask Vince Gilligan, like, why create this character? You know, with this whole crazy script, why throw the son in? You know,
my character was actually based on a friend Vince had in college who sometime after passed. Okay. And that's what really my character was from and with, and it was that growing up with him and in memory of him, and I think it just added that extra level of honesty to the show, because this is a real family, and not every family is gonna go out and have a meth kingpin father. Excuse me, but every family has dealt with this. Every family has someone with disabilities. Every family is, like, real families are not what you see on television, the happy sitcom family or the happy drama family. No, the White family was a real family. That was an honest family. Like people aren't perfect. No one in this world, I hate to break it to anyone in this world, you are not a perfect individual. You have flaws. There are these things that will come into your life that will necessarily define your outcome, but not everyone walks properly. Not everyone talks properly. You're more of a minority if you like write with great handwriting and talk very proper, and like that's how many people actually do. Very few. But real people are in this world, and that's what we really need to cater to as performers, is that honesty and truth. And we don't need to lose that.
Those dinner scenes that you would have, you know, there, because I'm from America, and people look and they see like the pretty house and the dinner's on the table, and then there's this crazy, weird, dysfunctional relationship going on between Walter and you and Mom, and so much of it is unsaid. And like, I just love watching that, because like that's what my dinner table was like, you know? It was just twisted. It might look from the outside okay, but it was all these weird dynamics happening.
No, but that's every family. That's my family. Like that's like, there's when you sit around my dinner table at the house, man, it is a show. It is definitely something, and that's life. That's people. That's you sit around these things with these unspoken issues that are going on, and you know across the table that person is thinking the exact same you're thinking, and you're like. You're just like sitting there, like, what take you out? Like, it's just that when the kids go to bed, you're gonna get it. Or when it's the same thing for the kids when they're saying, they're like, oh, Mom and Dad are fighting. Like, it's this thing that it makes it a real family. And with Breaking Bad, we had a real family. We had a truthful family. We had an honest family. And what we were bringing to the screen was real. It wasn't essentially a sitcom or another TV drama. It was a truthful drama. It had honesty. It had that realism, and that's what people need in television and film. And we were having that for like a split second, but we need to go back to that. Television hit the mark, and then they kept going. And that we need to go back to what they're bringing in, that honesty and truth.
Did you, all the people that were dying in that show, did you ever worry about not making it to the end?
I wanted to die. I wanted a gory and horrible death. I wanted one of those.
By whose hands?
By anyone's hands. I wanted it to be Bryan, Walt. I want Walt to have a hand in something that he did to make either Jesse or one of them kill his son. And like I wanted like a blood, like just that whole like just did you ever see like Four Brothers?
Yeah.
Like remember when one of the brothers die?
Yeah.
Like that type of heart wrenching, and they're like they see him, and it's just they know they need to get to him, but they physically cannot, or they will die.
It's like a shootout.
Like that shootout mode, like that type of like, yeah, it was a shootout. They were fighting these guys that were just came in to kill them, but like they're seeing him and they just can't get to him. I wanted something like that, like just where he had to watch him die, and that would have been just so like changed. That would have hurt people, and that would have changed them, and that would have affected them in a way where they would have probably never recovered. and I'm happy that it wouldn't have saved the show as well as it did. People probably wouldn't have been able to watch the show if that happened. It would have definitely
too much.
It would have hurt way too much because people are already feeling that vibe with the show's content and what the show was doing and how they were portraying. But like me personally, I love that. I would have like, give me your hearts.
That's true art, right? To really get that emotional. Were you sad that it ended at 5 seasons?
I mean, well, technically we have 6 if you really think about it.
True.
But I'm happy we had an ending. We almost never had an ending, and that would have definitely been sadder than ending. I was sad that it was over, and it was you know what was the most sad part is the most saddest part of this is I don't have a regular job anymore. I mean, I know that sounds weird and people are like, wait, regular job, but like I don't have that recurring work with people. I don't go back to that set. I don't go back to work with people that I care about. And yes, I keep finding more people that are amazing and that I love to work with and that I have fun working with. But I miss that environment of being able to be like, oh, I'm going back to set to work with these awesome people for 6 months out of the year, and then for the rest of the 6 months, every job is a blessing after that. Like, I don't have that. And yes, I work. I work all the time. I travel 10 months out of the year. I'm on a little bit of a tour right now. I have a break coming up hopefully soon. But
you missed that regular piece, that occurrence. You lived in New Mexico for 6 months of the year. For all reports, I mean, that crew and the cast were all really tight. I mean, the visual storytelling, I mean, the acting's amazing, but the visual storytelling that used to go on, like I would fall off my sofa and just be like, wow, the time that they took to make like those montages, and it was just, you know.
It was insane. It was insane. And what even helped is we shot on 35 millimeter. And that makes a world of difference because it just doesn't capture the scene. It captures the moment itself, and that's what really registers through. And then I was lucky to learn, and I see the importance of actually being on film versus digital. Digital is amazing, and you can record and shoot all day on digital, but there's something about film that captures, that burns that moment into the film and into the cinema, and that's something that we really I personally really appreciate.
But it takes a lot longer to get it right.
Not necessarily. You don't have as much time when you have film because you're like, oh, hold the roll. It's like oh, we're out of film. We gotta go, and it's expensive. You're talking about like the cameras themselves. A good camera, you're talking about $500,000 a camera. Then you're talking the film. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars for like one roll of film.
So as an actor, it's harder because you have a small window where you have to deliver.
Yep.
Whereas digital, they'll just roll and roll.
And they'll keep rolling. They're like, all right, we'll get it, keep going. And that's the thing is you have to deliver there, and you have to work with your directors. You have to work with your DPs. You have to work with the people around you that they're trusting you and you're trusting them to do your job. And if you don't, it doesn't look good, and you let everyone down. And that's the one thing is for me, it's a group effort. It's not, oh, this is all the actors and the directors. No, this is the DPs. This is lighting. This is grip, electric. This is a combination. In Breaking Bad, we had 500 people, all working and driving this ship home.
500.
And like it was a ship, It was a big movement, and if one gear did not work, it threw everything off. And that's the thing is sometimes gears don't work, but you can always replace a gear. And this is the thing is it goes for actors too. You get killed off quick, and especially on Breaking Bad. You do your job or you're going to die.
Did you see people get killed that weren't doing their job?
The thing about Breaking Bad is when you have a script that people love, and it goes back again to passion. Everyone on our set, 100%. I think there was like a couple of people that did, and they got removed fairly quickly. And they weren't big parts either. They weren't actors, it was just small clerks. And they moved on to bigger jobs. But this is the thing is, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, and you're not doing what you want to do, you're not going to put yourself into the work.
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to LondonReelAcademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Reel, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at LondonReelAcademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.